In a tragic end to a legendary career, beloved American singer, actor, and television personality, Pat Boone passed away in the early hours of March 22, 2025, at the age of 90. The cause of death was cardiac arrest, following years of chronic health issues stemming from a lifetime of cigarette smoking. Boone died at Aspen Regional Medical Center, surrounded by family, leaving behind a legacy spanning music, film, and television. Throughout his life, Pat Boone was celebrated as a symbol of wholesome entertainment, clean living, and American cultural tradition. Rising to fame in the 1950s, Boone's career as a singer, actor, and television personality catapulted him into the hearts of millions, earning him a reputation as the all-American boy with a spotless image. Yet behind the bright lights and moral persona, Boone carried with him a private struggle, one that would persist for more than 7 decades and ultimately play a tragic role in his final days. His addiction to smoking began quietly at the age of 18, a time when cigarette use was not only socially accepted, but often glamorized in film and media. For Boone, smoking started as a casual habit, a rite of passage into adulthood that many around him embraced. But what seemed harmless at first quickly morphed into dependency. As the years passed, smoking became an inseparable part of his daily routine, casting a shadow over his otherwise disciplined lifestyle. Despite his strong Christian values, devotion to family, and commitment to healthy living in other areas, Boone struggled to relinquish cigarettes. Friends, family members, and doctors repeatedly urged him to quit, especially as medical science began linking smoking to serious health consequences. Still, Boone resisted, and his addiction deepened with time. Those close to him described it as a tragic irony. The man who espoused self-control and moral fortitude in public could not free himself from a habit that quietly undermined his health. In 2020, Boone's battle with smoking reached a critical turning point. He suffered a major stroke, which left him partially paralyzed, with impaired speech and significantly reduced mobility. Once active and engaged, he now required assistance with everyday tasks, and his mental and physical stamina began to deteriorate. Despite this devastating event, a clear warning from his body, Boone was unable to quit smoking entirely, revealing the grip of addiction and the emotional toll it had taken over the years. As time wore on, the long-term effects of smoking began to manifest in more alarming ways. In late 2023, Boone received heartbreaking news. He had developed advanced-stage lung cancer, a direct consequence of his prolonged exposure to tobacco. By the time of diagnosis, the cancer had metastasized, spreading to his lymph nodes and other organs, rendering aggressive treatment futile. Given his fragile condition post-stroke, chemotherapy and radiation were deemed too risky and potentially more damaging than helpful. Faced with this reality, Boone and his family made the difficult yet compassionate decision to decline invasive treatments, opting instead for palliative care. Their goal was to preserve his comfort and dignity in his final months, allowing him to spend quality time with loved ones and reflect on his life without the burden of harsh medical interventions. Through much of 2024, Boone's health continued to decline, with frequent bouts of fatigue, chronic pain, and labored breathing. His once expansive world, filled with music, television appearances, and public speaking engagements, narrowed to the confines of his home, where he was cared for by family and a dedicated team of caregivers. Despite his deteriorating condition, Boone faced each day with a quiet strength and grace, holding tightly to his faith and family as sources of comfort. However, on Christmas Day 2024, his condition worsened dramatically. Boone experienced acute respiratory distress, gasping for air, and unable to breathe without assistance. He was rushed to a hospital where emergency treatment was administered. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize him, but the severity of his lung condition, compounded by compromised heart function, proved overwhelming. In the weeks that followed, Boone became bedridden, his energy depleted, and his ability to speak or eat diminished. His loved ones were warned by physicians that the end was near, and by March 2025, it was clear he was in the final stages of life. On March 22, 2025, Boone suffered a sudden cardiac arrest. Despite rapid intervention, including resuscitation efforts, he could not be revived. He was pronounced dead shortly after at the age of 84. An autopsy confirmed what many had feared. Complications from long-term smoking, including lung cancer and heart disease, were significant contributors to his death. His family, while grieving deeply, chose to share his story publicly, hoping it might serve as a cautionary tale about the devastating effects of addiction, even on those who live lives of accomplishment, faith, and public admiration. Boone's death marked the end of an era, the passing of a man whose talent, charisma, and influence left an indelible mark on American culture, yet whose private struggle with smoking serves as a sobering reminder of the human vulnerabilities that unite us all. Patrick Charles Eugene Boone, born on June 1, 1934, in Jacksonville, Florida, emerged from humble beginnings to become one of the most enduring figures in American entertainment history. Raised in Nashville, Tennessee, a city steeped in musical tradition, Boone grew up in a conservative, devout Christian household, where values of faith, family, and discipline were instilled early on. This grounding in faith would later become a central pillar of both his public persona and personal identity. Boone's foray into music began in earnest during his college years at North Texas State University and later Columbia University, where his talent for singing and natural stage presence set him apart. In the early 1950s, he entered and won several talent contests, drawing attention from record labels. His first major breakthrough came in 1955 with his rendition of Fats Domino's Ain't That a Shame, which soared up the Billboard charts. This cover, though controversial for its adaptation of a black artist's hit, marked the beginning of Boone's signature style, smoothing out the raw energy of rhythm and blues into a polished, mainstream-friendly sound. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, Boone experienced a level of commercial success rivaled only by Elvis Presley. He became a chart-topping phenomenon, with 38 top 40 hits, including iconic songs like Love Letters in the Sand, April Love, Moody River, and I'll Be Home. His boy-next-door charm, paired with his distinctive croon and unthreatening demeanor, made him especially popular among teenagers and their parents, positioning him as a safe alternative to the more rebellious rock and roll stars of the time. Boone's reach extended far beyond radio. In 1957, he was tapped to host his own primetime variety program, the Pat Boone Chevy Showroom, which ran successfully until 1960 on ABC television. The show was notable for its family-friendly content, celebrity guests, and musical performances, and it further cemented Boone's place in the pantheon of post-war American entertainment. He became a regular guest on talk shows, award ceremonies, and was a frequent headliner at major concert venues around the country. Simultaneously, Boone pursued a thriving film career, starring in a series of box office successes throughout the 1950s and 60s. His most notable film roles included the romantic musical April Love, 1957, State Fair, 1962, and the science fiction adventure Journey to the Center of the Earth, 1959. Boone's performances typically cast him as a clean-cut, earnest leading man, aligning perfectly with his public image. Audiences flocked to see his films, appreciating his relatable screen presence and his ability to blend music and acting seamlessly. In addition to his entertainment ventures, Boone became a best-selling author with the release of Twixt 12 and 20 in 1958, a self-help book for teenagers offering practical advice, spiritual guidance, and moral encouragement. The book sold millions of copies and reflected Boone's commitment to mentoring youth during a time of social change and cultural upheaval. Over the years, he would go on to write numerous books on topics ranging from faith and family to health and American values. One of the more complex aspects of Boone's early musical success was his role in popularizing R&B songs by black artists for white audiences. His covers of songs by Fats Domino, Little Richard, and Ivory Joe Hunter were massive commercial successes, often outperforming the originals on mainstream charts. While this practice drew criticism for appropriating black music, it also played a part in introducing black musical styles to a broader audience during a period of segregation and racial tension. Boone's approach to these songs, while sanitized for mainstream consumption, helped to foster a cultural dialogue that would later evolve into greater integration within the music industry. As the cultural revolution of the 1960s unfolded, Boone's wholesome image became less aligned with the era's edgier, more rebellious tone. Nevertheless, he adapted by focusing more intently on Christian music, aligning with his deeply held religious beliefs. His gospel albums garnered critical acclaim and helped solidify his standing within the Christian music community. In recognition of his contributions, Boone was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, underscoring his lasting influence in both secular and religious musical traditions. In his later years, Boone became an active speaker, commentator, and advocate for faith-based and conservative values. He wrote editorials, gave public lectures, and appeared on Christian broadcasting networks, voicing his perspectives on morality, patriotism, and spiritual renewal. His longevity in the public eye was a testament to his versatility and dedication as he continued to perform and engage with audiences well into his 80s. Through a career spanning more than 70 years, Pat Boone not only shaped the sound and style of an era, but also stood as a symbol of enduring American ideals, faith, family, and moral integrity. His journey from a young man in Nashville to a household name reflects a lifetime of achievements, challenges, and unwavering commitment to his values and craft. Boone's influence has been etched into the cultural, musical, and spiritual landscape of America, a legacy that continues to resonate across generations and genres. Though Pat Boone enjoyed an extraordinary life filled with success, acclaim, and influence, his final chapter was marked by profound pain, physical decline, and moments of deep introspection. The onset of serious health complications in his later years forced Boone and those closest to him to confront the harsh consequences of a long-standing addiction that had quietly shadowed an otherwise disciplined and principled life. The stroke he suffered in 2020 was a turning point, leaving him physically diminished, with limited mobility, impaired speech, and growing dependence on those around him. Tasks that once came naturally became laborious, and Boone, known for his boundless energy and charismatic presence, found himself confined to a quieter, more reflective existence. Friends and family observed a man who remained mentally sharp and spiritually grounded, yet grappling with the limitations imposed by his weakening body. When Boone received his diagnosis of advanced lung cancer in late 2023, the news was devastating, though not entirely unexpected. Decades of smoking had left a devastating imprint, and the disease had already spread, making aggressive treatment options unviable. Boone, understanding the gravity of his condition, made the difficult but courageous choice to forego chemotherapy, opting instead for palliative care, determined to spend his final months surrounded by loved ones, without the added burden of debilitating medical interventions. During these final months, Boone's conversations grew more intimate, more reflective. In private, he acknowledged his regrets, notably his inability to quit smoking, a habit he had wrestled with for over 70 years. In moments of quiet candor, he lamented the pain it caused, not only to himself but to those who cared for him, expressing sorrow for how addiction had eroded his health despite his efforts to maintain discipline in so many other areas. His honesty in these vulnerable moments touched those around him deeply, becoming part of his final ministry, a lesson in humility, accountability, and the complexities of the human condition. For Boone's family, watching him endure daily pain, respiratory struggles, and fatigue was heartbreaking. Yet, they also witnessed his resilience, his gratitude for life, and his unshakable faith, which became sources of strength in an otherwise difficult time. On Christmas Day 2024, Boone's health took a sharp downturn. He experienced severe breathing difficulties, prompting an emergency hospital visit. Medical staff worked tirelessly to stabilize him, but it became clear to all involved that Boone's journey was approaching its end. By March 2025, he was completely bedridden, his body frail, and his spirit preparing for peace. On March 22, 2025, Boone suffered cardiac arrest. Despite immediate intervention, he could not be revived. His death was confirmed shortly after, with decades of smoking listed as a major contributing factor to the lung cancer and heart complications that ultimately claimed his life. His passing marked not only the end of a storied life, but also the closing of an era in American entertainment and cultural history. As news of Pat Boone's passing swept across the globe, it was met with an immediate and profound outpouring of grief, admiration, and reflection. Tributes flooded in from every corner of society, from devoted fans who cherished his music and films, to fellow musicians, actors, political leaders, and spiritual figures who had been influenced by his enduring presence and principled life. Across television networks, social media platforms, and public gatherings, people paused to honor the extraordinary life and legacy of a man whose influence transcended generations, crossed cultural boundaries, and spanned multiple industries. For many, Boone was far more than a beloved entertainer. He was a symbol of integrity, faith, and resilience, a figure who embodied the values of an earlier era while maintaining relevance through changing times. His voice, both in song and in public discourse, resonated with the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of millions, offering comfort, inspiration, and moral guidance. Boone's passing represents not only the loss of a celebrated artist, but the end of an era in American culture, one defined by decency, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to uplifting others through music, faith, and service. From his humble beginnings in Nashville, Boone built a career that transcended entertainment, making him a fixture in American homes for over 7 decades. His songs, films, books, and public appearances became cornerstones of 20th century Americana, and his steadfast adherence to faith and family values won him admiration far beyond the stage. He was one of the few entertainers who could sing a love ballad on Saturday night and lead a gospel hymn on Sunday morning, bridging secular success and spiritual calling with seamless grace. Boone leaves behind a loving family, including his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, all of whom carry forward his legacy of faith, resilience, and service. To them, he was not just a celebrity, but a beloved patriarch, known for his kindness, humility, and unwavering commitment to his principles. His absence leaves a void in the hearts of his family and countless admirers, but his spirit endures in the songs still sung, the films still watched, and the values he championed throughout his life. As we reflect on the life and legacy of Pat Boone, we are reminded of the extraordinary breadth and depth of his influence, an influence that spanned decades, generations, and cultural movements. From his record-breaking achievements in the music industry, where he sold millions of records and shaped the sound of mid-20th century America, to his successful career in Hollywood, where he starred in beloved films that brought joy to countless audiences, Boone's talents left an indelible mark on the world of entertainment. Yet his legacy reaches far beyond chart-topping hits and box office success. Boone was also a man of faith, a spiritual leader, and a public advocate for family values and personal conviction. He navigated fame and public scrutiny with a commitment to his beliefs, even amid personal challenges and the trials of addiction. His struggles in later life, including health complications and addiction to smoking, add depth to his story, highlighting the fragility of life and the redemptive power of honesty and reflection. We offer our deepest condolences to the Boone family and to all who mourn the loss of this beloved icon. Thank you for joining us in honoring Pat Boone's remarkable journey, his enduring contributions, and the lasting inspiration he leaves behind. Stay with us for continued tributes as we celebrate a life of purpose, perseverance, and profound impact.